And do we discuss the issue of sexual orientation or being gay enough in educational programs?
Um, I'll personally say no. Um, and I would say no just because, it's not a heavy topic. And I feel like even with the LGBTQ plus organization on campus, it's not treated as other orgs are treated. So that power, that spokesmanship within the organization is not, it's not bold and powerful to be spoke on, in which they have like different connections with different orgs to just speak on it in general. But some orgs, or like some people within the institution, they do bring in people, or they do talk about this specific conversation of, I guess, of being gay and Greek. But it's just like, it's not something that you notice a lot. I mean, it is something that you notice a lot, but it's just like, I don't think they. I wish I, I wish I knew how to get out what I'm saying, but I don't think they. It's not something they bold on. I guess like.
Okay.
I think to piggyback also that and like what the guy was talking about in the video, I think it goes into like being raised as a black person, you know. So you're coming out, right? You tell your family, initially they're mad or whatever, and then once they get over that stage of grief, they decide that, okay, we accept you, but you have to look the part. So we're just going to sweep it under the rug and not talk about it. We know it's there, but we're going to ignore it. And I think a lot of times with Greek life, especially, instead of just being proud of the fact that our orgs are becoming accepting of LGBTQ people, they rather just leave it there. And if you notice it, you notice it, but they're not going to bring it up.
Yeah. Any other comments? Nope. Okay. The next question. How do we stop rumors that the chapter is gay or lesbian? Um, just because that they're members who are gay or lesbian. How do we stop that? And should we even care that people are labeling, us as this? What do you guys think?
Um, I well, first of all, I've never heard the phrase of people saying um a chapter is gay because you have gay people in the chapter. But um I I will say that that's probably one of those things that people don't really pay any mind to because kind of like how Kenyatta was saying earlier, how people say that individuals that join Phi Mu Alpha are gay and this and that and the other, but that's not really what the orgs are about. Um, we joined these orgs that we chose because of the values that each and one of us shares, and kind of how he said all of us come from different backgrounds, all of us are different from each other, and it just goes to show that people are always going to have something to say, and especially for a lot of chapters that are very well known. Like some chapters are well known, some chapters are hyped up, and for some of the well known, if people can find the smallest things to say about a chapter, then they're going to say it. But just necessarily because you have LGBTQ members within your chapter does not mean that your chapter is gay. And that also doesn't mean, you know, things would be any different if we didn't have LGBTQ members in a chapter, in a sense, because we're all people. And just because of our sexual preferences doesn't mean that we're going to run our chapter any different than anybody else would.
Okay. Any other comments about that question?
I think that Bianca really hit it on the head. I'll say that there's no reason to sugarcoat it. Greeks are judgmental. We are. I mean, it is what it is. We are all great people in our own ways, but we all have that little ear like, oh, okay. But I think that also being Greek, you learn to let a lot of stuff roll off your shoulders. And it's important to keep a peaceful mindset wherever you go, because letting something trigger you to the point of rage or something like that can not only give you a bad name, but everything you do reflects back on your chapter and your organization. And I think us knowing that as Greeks keeps a lot of the peace. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of stuff people say I will let roll off my shoulders. But if you get too disrespectful, I will put you in your place respectfully. So, yeah.
Emphasis on respectfully, okay?
Respectfully. Yes, and that was very very accurate. And it goes back to the reasons why we joined our respective organizations. We didn't join because somebody think that just because the org's gay, we gotta prove them wrong. I could care less what you think about my org from the outside looking in. You didn't pay my dues, and you certainly wasn't there for my initiation. So why does your opinion matter? You have an opinion about an organization, but you're not here to attend the programs and the joint Greek sessions and the informational seminars, let alone an interest meeting to see what the organization really is about. But you're going off word of mouth and your own perceived arbitrary assumption. Is very interesting, because the people who have the most to say negatively about an organization mainly be the ones who barely know anything about the organization. The only ones who know are the members who come in. I joined to be a man of the highest type and contribute to bringing harmony to the world. I didn't join to have a parade around campus. Oh, I'm gay, and I'm wearing the letters to represent that I'm gay. No, no. I was homosexual before Symphonia, and I will be afterwards. And that is how we got to carry ourselves as like members of our Greek organizations and as Greek life. Yes, we know we're judgmental, but at the same time, we have to let our work ethic speak for ourselves. We have to let the things that we pledge to be on speak higher volumes than what somebody else got to say.
Great points from everyone. I think I also want to note that whenever we talk about this particular conversation piece of how do we prevent or how do we change that narrative of people looking at our organizations as being gay, I think that really takes perception as reality into the worst light possible, because we're focusing on something that's completely irrelevant, just as everyone before me has stated. If you do your research accordingly, if you do everything that you're supposed to do as a prospect, you're not looking at those types of things. If anything, if you happen to come across that, then that should almost be a plus, because that says, wow, this organization is actually really inclusive. And it appeals to a much broader spectrum of prospects. So maybe this is the type of thing that I want to be affiliated with.
For sure. That's a good take on that. Okay. Anybody else have anything to say before I move on? Nope. Okay. So my next question is, do you think that there should be policies set in place? There are discrimination policies that are written in pretty much everybody's bylaws, but do you think there should be certain policies set in place to protect against prejudice and discrimination against LGBTQ? And as far as the discrimination policies that are set in place, do you think that they are upheld when it comes to LGBTQ?
As far as undergraduate decisions go, I think that we are a lot more accepting than a graduate level because you have people of all ages in a graduate level. In undergrad, we're all 18 to 23, sometimes 25 in that area, you know. So we all kind of understand the concept of they are who they are, but that doesn't change their characteristics as a person. And I think at the undergrad level, we look more at the set in stone facts about the person rather than simple commonalities, you know, like, yeah, she's gay, but she brings this to the table. She's great at community service. She's wonderful at networking. She has a beautiful smile. She'd be a great face for the chapter. I think in the undergrad level, we consider those factors a lot heavier than they do on the graduate level. So I'll say here, I can say it's enforced, but there, especially me still being undergrad, I don't really know for sure. But from what I've noticed with conversations with graduate members, it's hit or miss.
Anybody else? Anything else to add?
As stated before, there are a lot of organizations that all boast these great things in their constitution. You know, we are a non-discriminating organization. You know, we do not discriminate against race, creed, religion, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. All the good jargon that's put in place to prevent anyone from catching a lawsuit.
Okay.
So, you know, I think that a lot of that stuff is put into place to look pretty on paper. And I believe that there is some merit with the idea behind it. However, the actual execution falls short more times than more often than none. So I think it starts with each and every single individual in the organization checking their bias. They have to check their own independent bias and realize, okay, well, this is what it is, blah, 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 blah. And then go from there and hold themselves and their brothers or their sisters accountable. And that's really how it starts.
Anything else anybody would like to add? Let's see, where do we want to go next? If you guys are giving advice to some of your chapter members, what should the fraternity or sorority do if a brother or sister comes out? What sort of things would you like or recommend to happen? Just, you know, as far as support and everything, what would you have liked to hear?
I just feel like if your brother or your sister is coming out, I just feel like it's something that you should accept. You shouldn't treat them no different. So it definitely shouldn't be like, oh, well, they just came out and you shrug a shoulder up to them or something like that. I feel like you just have to accept them for who they are. Because at the end of the day, they're still representing this organization as well as you representing this organization. And just like, you know, most of these organizations, you're creating a sisterhood, a brotherhood. So if that's the case, then no matter who I am, you're supposed to always have my back. You're supposed to always support me through the decisions that I am making.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really real. And I think for me, especially since Gamma is such a small chapter, we're all very, very close. So when it comes to sorors and sisters and what they have going on in their lives and decisions that they're making, whether it be coming out or otherwise, it's like telling family, as it should be, you know. And from my own experiences, it's always been a warm welcome because, like Teresa said, you're supposed to have my back regardless of anything. And I think that in that situation, if you were to greet someone any other way other than acceptance when they come out to you and you guys are brothers or sisters or sorors, frats, whatever, then it shows you who you are as a person. And that takes, it should show you that you have a lot of self-work to do because you say these pledges and sing these hymns and say all these creeds, and then you turn around and do something that goes against everything that they stand for. So it shows you who you are as a person, not only, but how much you really learned from becoming a member.
I totally agree with that.
Mhm.
Also
Okay,
to
anything?
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. Also to add to that, I think the very first step as a fraternity brother or fraternity sister, if a member or a brother or your respective brother or sister were to come out to you, the very first thing that you need to do is to respect the trust that they had to come out and to disclose that very personal, the very private information to you. The worst thing that you could possibly do is to disregard that trust and minimize it. The next thing to do is to establish clear boundaries. What are you okay with? What are you not okay with? How should I address certain situations? How should I, what do you feel comfortable with in terms of me going certain places with you about certain topics? You know, what establishing those boundaries is incredibly important. And then just being a supportive force for them. If they need to talk or vent about their man or their girl or whatever the case, listen as if though it were another one of your brothers and sisters venting about their significant other. If they just need a safe space to just be in and occupy and recharge themselves and get themselves together, be that, because you would want your brother or your sister to be that for you.
Or if they're just going to be kicked out completely and shunned, you got to create that safe space for them. And the same way they was able to confide into you, you have to be able to confide into them as well, and let them disclose their business. Just as Brother Brandon said, let them disclose their business. Do not jump the gun and disclose their business for them, because that diminishes all it defeats the purpose of them even coming out to you in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have that support space, and you gotta have that trust built in within them, because then you will be able to strengthen your brotherhood, sisterhood, what have you, and take it to heights that the fraternity sorority would have never ever imagined.
Right. And that is a really good point. It goes beyond Greek life as well. That's with anybody. You know, you have to take everything that people confide in you with a grain of salt, because you never know what point that person is at. Your reaction could be the last straw from them, and you really have to take that thought into every interaction that you have, because if that really was the last straw for them and something happened, how would you feel after the fact?
Mm-hmm.
Just food for thought.
And that's what we want to prevent, because we've had enough of that.
Right.
Totally. Any other comments about this question? Okay, so we are almost finished. We have a couple more questions. So this kind of goes back to like the stereotype of being what am I trying to say? Like a certain, you know how there are stereotypes for gay people, like you look a certain way. Do you think that those sort of things, like the way you dress, the way you present yourself, the way you talk, those things that we covered, do you think that affects the look or the morals of the chapter? Some people would probably say, oh, you're not upholding, our certain morals because you do this or because you act like this. Do you think those sort of things should even correlate together?
They don't. No. They're completely independent from each other. Morals and appearance are two different things. They are. Like they honestly are. Just because of how some and I said this earlier, like this is more of a taboo when it comes to sorority organizations. Like just because someone dresses a certain way in their own comfortable skin, that does not discredit their work ethic. That does not discredit what they do from behind the scenes. It doesn't discredit the programs that get put out and their effort that put into it. They're still upholding the ideals and ideologies and responsibilities that they knew they were supposed to have held on to within their minds and in their heart when they researched and joined the organization. Like that's like appearance and actions and stuff. Like dressing a certain way shouldn't really affect how you are and how you carry yourself as a member of an organization. I've had to deal with this personally last fall, and it wasn't even just off of like the basis of homosexuality. It was actually off the basis of martial arts, because the way it was portrayed to a crowd and portrayed in another light, a negative light. And it got to a point where you like had to realize that, for one, adversity is everywhere. Like we said earlier, people gonna talk about you. Everybody gonna talk, no matter how perfect you are. People gonna talk until the day you die. But the main thing, like nothing in the world matters unless you love and accept yourself first and foremost. With that, accept every part of you, your entirety, and as you're representing your organization, represent it with the whole of your life. And that does not constitute on how you dress, rather you representing the organization or doing what you said you were gonna do when you got initiated. That doesn't have anything to do with it at all.
For sure.
I think to piggyback off of what Kenyatta said, I completely agree, and he's correct in saying that from a sorority standpoint, we have much stricter expectations, I'll say. It can be difficult. Like I was saying earlier, undergraduate level is a lot more lax than graduate level. But when we are involved with the graduate members, they have a very specific expectation of us and what being a Sigma woman is to the public. And I think that if it's not presented in a respectful manner, it can be very harmful. If you have an expectation for us for an event per se, it's okay for you to tell us what the dress code is for the event, but do not present it as you better not do this and you know better than to do this. It should be presented in a professional manner, saying that this is the dress code and this is what is expected of you, not implementing your own opinions of how I should look into the situation.
Can make the accommodations, but it's just like, for me, the look I kind of give off is just like, you can tweak it a little bit, but you're still gonna see it when I put on that dress and the cardigan and the heels. You're still gonna see it. So it's just like, it's hard, but I mean, like I said, if you're comfortable with who you are and you signed up for this, it's okay for me. I'm okay. Like I'm representing this org as a whole. So just like, I knew when I signed up for this what I was coming into.
Everybody kind of hit it all on the nail, but I definitely agree with the whole uniformity and just the stereotype of members of a sorority that fit into that more masculine feel. Like, speaking specifically for myself, and kind of like how I said earlier, like if you look at members in my chapter, like it's always gonna be you can tell the difference between me and you can tell the difference between everybody in my chapter. But the significance of it is, even though you can tell the differences within our preference, you wouldn't even be able to tell that like we're not in one accord, or you wouldn't be able to tell that they would look at me differently. But it's just kind of seeing, like, if you look at them, you're gonna see skirts, dress shirts, heels, hair done, nails, lashes, all that kind of stuff. And then you turn over and you're gonna look at me and you're gonna see a nice dress shirt, some nice slacks, some nice dress shoes. We don't really have like a set uniform that we wear, especially like for business stuff. Our more so is just business professional, black blazers, black pants, black dress shoes, white collared shirts. Like, it's the whole stereotype thing is more so just the reality that people really see. And even though you see it, it's just kind of like, that doesn't change the fact that I'm here a part of this chapter and I'm here to just, bring something to the chapter. What I look like or what I'm dressing in doesn't have anything to do with what I'm here to accomplish. And just because I'm not dressed how the rest of my chapter is dressed doesn't mean that I'm not as great as a person as everybody else.
Indeed.
Yes, this was a really good question. I really liked everybody's response for this one. So we have about 2 more questions. Just a basic question. Do you guys feel like you can honestly be your true self around your members, your line brothers, your line sisters, advisors? Do you feel like you could be yourself?
All the time.
Yes,
All
they
the time.
ain't taking me no less. Well, look like
You
compromising.
get what you get. You already accepted me now, so
Okay. I done paid my dues. I done got initiated. I got all types of nail in my closet. What is you gonna do? What you gonna do? Tell me that I can't be myself in my own skin, in my setting, with my brothers? I think not.
Leela, what did Amy say on Thousand Power Sisters? I pay my bills are paid. Okay.
Oh,
You
okay.
can't take that from
Okay.
me.
She said
So
what she said.
either you like who I am or you dislike it, but silently.
Silently, and emphasis on silently.
I don't exactly, and that's another thing that people got to understand. It's okay that we're not forcing it down your throat. This isn't about forcing homosexuality down your throat. We never want to force anything down nobody's throats because we know what it's like to have stuff forced down our throat against our will. We don't want to do that. If you do not respect our sexual orientation or respect how we carry ourselves, like, that's fine as long as you don't impose that will on other people. Then it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
If you make it known that you do not like this person because of their homosexuality or bisexuality or pansexuality or however you may identify, you make that known, you cause a problem. You light a fire that shouldn't have never been lit in the first place within an organization, let alone the organization outside of another org. Like, it's okay to have your own personal purposes, like we have our own personal purposes. It's okay. Just keep that to yourself. You don't like it, that's your problem. That's your personal problem. You ain't pay my dues. I pay my own dues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't put that on me. Don't put that on me, because then I'm gonna have to come out of my letters and respectfully put you back in your place. And I don't want to do that.
It's just like life's too short, man. You only get so many breaths in this lifetime. You really want to sit here and waste your breath telling me what you think I should do? You can talk all you want to, but that's not going to change who I am.
Watch me not do it.
I love myself. It is what it is. You can talk all you want to.
That's it right there. That's it right there. Like I said earlier, don't nothing matter in the world unless you love and accept yourself first and foremost. You might tell me how you might want me to act, but I'm going to act differently. I'm going to act how I want to act. I'm going to act how I'm comfortable acting. And you're just going to continue to be mad and stressed out.
I just want to personally say, like, before it's certain instances where I feel like it's easier for certain people depending on the org. Because I know specifically like me, like before you can join Tabe Sima or before you can join Kappa Kappa Psi, and even like with Kenyatta, because he can relate with this, or even Brandon, before they joined Phi Mu Alpha, like all of us being in the band together, like people really got to see who we were as people, and before we even had letters, so they knew who we were. They knew how we act, how we talk, how we do this, how we do that. Like if we're walking around campus and people see us, like they know, oh, this is how Kenyatta acts, or this is how Brandon acts, or this is how Bianca acts. And then it's like when we came into the portion of, okay, we're gonna go and take our interest in these orgs, and we're gonna keep this ball rolling forward. And then when we get into the org, it's kind of like you already saw what you were getting before we got here. So if you have a problem with the product that you wanted when you get it, there's no returns. Like you can't give us back because we're already here. You knew what you were getting before we got here. So it's just kind of like, I don't know, man. I just personally feel like there is no everybody knows exactly what you're getting before you accept people. And it's just kind of like how they were saying, you get what you get. And if you know exactly what you were getting before you got me, then if you don't like it, that's on you.
Okay.
The
You can
person.
pout, you can cry, you can denounce your letters if you want to, but I'm still be here. We're
Still
still
gonna be
gonna be here. Okay.
I just feel like the person I am personally, I'm a cool, laid back type of person. So it's just like if you have that negative energy, just keep it away from me, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna accept you for who you are. So I would expect you to accept me for who I am. But it's just like I'm still gonna look at you the same regardless. It's just like if you was to come tell me something that somebody else would look at you differently from, I'm gonna look at you the same. So it's just like if you can't do the same thing for me, just keep your distance. But I mean, I feel like I'm accepted, so I mean it's really not much.
Okay, last question to end off this very good panel discussion. First off, I want to say you guys did so good before we get to the last question. This was very insightful, especially coming from, like I said, someone who's straight. This is a great experience for me because it really opened my mind to something that I'm not really exposed to that much. And it definitely needs to become a norm for us to have conversations like this and open discussions like this, and hope that things will get better.
Mm-hmm.
For our last question, how can we get more people to be open-minded about LGBTQ Greeks?
Ooh.
Okay, I'll go.
Mhm.
I feel like that's something that's pretty hard. Not pretty, but it's really hard. Especially within Greek life, you don't see. I guess more fraternity wise, you don't see it a lot, but like sorority wise, you will.
Yeah.
So it's just like I feel like girls are more understanding when it comes to the more of the LGBTQ plus community. So it's just like for us, you gotta. I mean, when it comes to living a different lifestyle from other people, you have to educate people. And you have to continuously educate people. Just like they call you the wrong name, or they say something out of pocket, or they say something, they label you the wrong thing, or they joke around. People like to joke around, like, oh, they are the same thing, stuff like that. So just like you have to sit and educate them for them to understand and for them to open up, because it's just like if you don't educate them, they're going to continue to joke around and they're not going to take it as serious as they should. So it's just like they're joking around, then they don't look at you as, they're not taking you serious as a person, as who you are. So it's just like education is key when it comes to living a different lifestyle from somebody.
And that's really real. And with that, you have to, as a person of the community, you have to be open to the conversation. Don't be that gay person that is like, you don't need to say that, and you're wrong, and da 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 da. You have to be open to the conversation. You can't just tell somebody they're wrong and then walk away from it. Because if you tell me I'm wrong and then just walk away, I'm assuming that you're full of it and continue on back out in the first place. So unless you're going to be open with the conversation, you're not helping with the progression at all. And I think as Greek life as a whole, until we start talking about it openly, nobody else is going to talk about it openly because we set the standard. And right now, the standard that we present is that, yeah, they're here, yeah, they're welcomed, but they aren't highlighted the same way a straight member would be. And I think that causes a lot of harm to how other people think of Greek life as a whole. So yeah, until we open the conversation, how are we going to invite anybody else to it?
Sure.
Right.
Anybody else? How can we get more people to be open-minded?
I feel like a part of people being more open-minded is sometimes trying to open up and telling people about it is usually kind of a hit or miss because it really depends on the person's maturity of the situation. Like you can sit here and you could try to teach somebody about what it's like to be you or how to handle being around people like you. But if you're not mature enough to understand what it is that we're trying to explain to you, then it's kind of like our statements are going in one ear and out the other. So it's kind of hard to teach stuff like that. The best way to do it is just try to progressively explain it to people. Now, I'm not saying that, you have to repetitively explain to people, okay, this is it. Okay, I'm telling you again. It's kind of like we're all mature enough, we're all grown, we're all old enough to understand that if I tell you this one time, I need you to understand it, because I should be able to feel like I don't have to have this conversation with you again. But the problem about it is this conversation isn't really had with people, or it's not had enough to where it's being expanded into newer generations. And that's what we all have to learn, is that the things that we're teaching each other, we have to continuously teach them, or else it's not going to get to the next generation of people coming in. Because the people that we come in with, like our lines, like if I tell one of my line sisters, okay, this is me, this is who I am, then it's just kind of like you can either accept it and we can keep moving, or you cannot accept it and we can keep moving. Now I've already explained to you what it is and what it's going to be. How you handle that is completely up to you, because we're all different people. People think differently. We all react to things differently. And we can't change that. All we can do is say our pieces and hope for the best.
That's really real. It's really real.
Mhm.
I think conversations like these are a key starting point for it, though, because it's a lot of fear involved. Fear of being ostracized plays a very big role in why the conversation isn't had. I think the first step is people like us just being comfortable with having the conversation. We're just chatting, it doesn't have to be as big of a deal as we make it. It's just a conversation.
Literally.
And I think that's how we need to look at it.
I enjoy chocolate ice cream. I know that's not topic of the conversation, but I just had to throw that out there.
I'm still on the chocolate ice cream. Like, what's so wrong with chocolate ice cream?
Okay.
What did it do to you?
Disgusting.
Who hurt you?
Child,
Like, how do you know?
I'm glad this isn't a zodiac sign conversation, because that's just gonna go.
Oh yeah, we're not even gonna get into it.
Listen, that's a whole other podcast. Okay.
Okay, that's a whole nother podcast. Like, Lord, I done lost my train of thought. What Lamille was talking about when it came to, oh Lord, I done lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's gonna come back.
Yeah, it's gonna come back.
Let's pause and talk about this ice cream thing. Oh no, go ahead, Brandon. You're talking about important things.
KJ, while you take a moment to recollect your thought, I'm going to. I'll go ahead and I'll make a very bold statement that may, as I said, is bold, and it may even be viewed a little bit as problematic. And I'm addressing the men. It's hard to have a conversation about being Greek and gay, especially within our campus and our community. And we understand that the majority of the male fraternities on our campus are made up by those of the D9 community. And it's no shot at any specific organization or chapter, but it is a shot at the entire spectrum of fraternities on our campus. We cannot continue to have this conversation without you being present at the table and being present in these discussions. This is the second year that we have had the program being Greek and gay, and we've only had one representative who was a part of a Divine Nine fraternity, and he was not a student here at A&T. So it starts with people stepping up to the table, whether you identify as gay or not, and being a part of the conversation, and then taking this information back to your collective organization.
That brought it back.
I do expect you to accept me. because respect and acceptance go hand in hand. You do not have to like me. You do not have to like what I do, but you will respect it and you will accept it because it has nothing to do with you. And I think as far as the non-fraternities go, I think a lot of times it's forgotten that in the LGBTQ plus, there's a plus for a reason. Allies are in there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to identify with any of the other letters to be a part of the conversation.
Okay.
You have to be there to be a support system, be a voice in rooms where we're not welcome. You know, it's the same thing. Like, I hate saying this because the racism thing is a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother podcast. But they are so much more similar than we allow ourselves to realize. The same way we need people in rooms where Black people aren't welcomed, it's the same thing here. We need somebody that's going to be able to step into a place where I can't go, because that's the only way we move forward. And I think until people accept the fact that you can be okay with somebody else living their life and not change anything about yours, we're not going to get anywhere. People are so full of the fact that they think other people affect their lives so much. Baby, you are this big in this big world.
Okay.
Stop being so full of yourself. Like, you're important, you matter, you're an amazing person, whoever you are. But you being amazing would not be affected by somebody else being amazing at being them. That's all.
Inspiration.
That was good. I'm not gonna lie, that was good.
It's the teacher brain. Mm-hmm.
Come on, teacher brain.
Okay.
That's the maturity
Inspire
for
them.
me.
Yes. Any last final thoughts, comments, concern, anything that you wanted to talk about that we may not have discussed? Any pressing issues? Anything you just want to talk about? This is an open floor right now.
All I have to say is be yourself, baby. Because can't nobody be you better than you. Okay? Whoever God made you to be is who you're supposed to be. And doesn't nobody know who that is except for you. And nobody else deserves input except for you.
Say that.
And anybody who has anything else to say about it can turn around and kick rocks.
Okay. I feel like that, like moving forward in the future, I feel like we can, like you mentioned, that the plus is there for a multitude of reasons, and the main reason that is like one of the main reasons is there because allies exist within the A through Z mafia. Like that's a thing. Being a heterosexual and being an ally is a thing, and I think that's overlooked very often because oftentimes when a heterosexual does attend such a seminar or such an event, they're looked at and perceived as homosexual, and that's not it at all. No matter how many times they have to validate themselves, because they attend such an event, they're not validated by their friends or organizations that they're a part of, and thus ostracized. It's a part of the fear that's been instilled within us for years and years and years. And that's why it's probably going to take so long to get to overcome it, because it's just been there within us for some time.
I guess I'll end with this last point. Do not ask someone to accept you if you do not accept yourself first. That starts with learning to love yourself for all of the flaws, the mistakes, the pain, the past hurt, the trauma, all of it. Learning to accept that, grow from it, learn from it, and understand that all of those unique characters make up the beautiful being that you are. Accept that first before you ask anyone else to accept that.